Hello, I'm Robert, Voluntary Fact Check, and helping you if you're scared of many things. And this is about another strand from my article, which I'm going to pick out here. And this is about how Putin, as an oligarch, he enjoys a luxury lifestyle and why he cares so much about the economy. So it seems that when Trump hit the sanctions on India, then the secondary sanction on India, and even though they haven't even come into place yet, just preliminary 25% for something else, and the other 25% is only going to come later. But already Russian oil exporters, they're finding that they can't sell their oil to India. Its refiners are diversifying, and they're saying, well, we don't want to risk being hit by these tariffs. So the oil revenue is already being hit. So why should Russia care so much about the oil revenue? There we are. So this shows the Russian fossil fuel export revenue. And as you can see, it was about $1 billion a day at the start of the war that they were earning from the oil. It boosted quite quickly early on. That would be things like India taking it up. And then the various attempts at sanctioning reduced it, but not very much. And they're still earning over $500 million a year from most of it from oil. $500 million a day from the oil. So that's quite a serious amount of money. And this goes straight to the Russian government. So, and then part of that ends up eventually in the pockets of the oligarchs, like Putin. So, in some way or another. So now let's look at Putin's luxury lifestyle. So, let's see. So, this is Putin as the oligarch. And again, well, everyone knows that he's an oligarch, but I don't know how many people realize quite how much of an oligarch he is, how fabulously wealthy he is. So this is famously Putin's palace. Well, it's one of his many luxury dwellings that he has scattered throughout Russia. And this is one that he got built specially, but the builders did shoddy workmanship for it. And as a result, it started having mold spreading everywhere through it. So this was what it was like before. Excuse me. This is what it was like before the mold started spreading everywhere. And so this was a guest room. It's not Putin's bedroom. It's just one of the rooms in this mansion or palace. And it shows the kind of luxury lifestyle that Putin is used to. But he had to gut it and remove everything because of the mold. And that's not a big deal for Putin, because he has plenty of other places like this. And Putin, he cares a lot about the imperial Fabergé eggs. So this is a small thing you could hold in a couple of hands or so. And they're fabulously expensive. So this was one of the 9 eggs, and an oligarch friend bought it for Russia for $100 million. And it's displayed in the Fabergé Museum in St. Petersburg, which is where Putin was born. And an expert on Fabergé eggs, then I found a post by her, and she was talking about how if you start talking to, and she's actually talked to Putin about Fabergé eggs, she says if you talk to him about Fabergé eggs, then he'll suddenly get very interested and he can talk for hours on it. He's very interested in Fabergé eggs. So if you ever wanted a conversation starter with Putin, then that's what to talk about. And he cares about Russian culture and buildings and artifacts and Russianness. So he's like a modern day Tsar. And then it's very clearly he's not the sort of person who would ever even consider getting involved in a nuclear war. I hope you can see that. So that's not what any of this is about. this is his girlfriend. So he's never married, but he's got a long-term girlfriend called Alina Kabayeva. However you're supposed to pronounce that. And she's a multiple gold medalist. She's won a very large number of medals in rhythm gymnastics at the Olympic Games. And that's her with one of her routines. And this was him giving her a medal. This is some time back now, of course. So this is one of her apartments, just one of them. It's the top floor there. I don't know if it's all of it. It might be all of it. I'm not sure. It's got the reputation of being the largest apartment in Russia, according to some people's ideas. So it's a penthouse apartment. She doesn't spend most of her time there. It's a place where she goes to when she wants to just wants to hang out there. Then she goes there, and this is what it's like inside. Your gold and glass and things, and then this is the view from the top. She's got her own swimming pool. She's got a helipad, and so she doesn't need to go up this lift. She'll come in a helicopter and fly out again in a helicopter. And so that's the sort of lifestyle that all of this is paid by Putin. Of course, he didn't earn all that from the presidential salary. He's stolen it. It's stolen Russian money. And so Musk, he has a lot of wealth, but when he was asked, what you feel being at $260 billion, the richest person on earth, he said, I do think Putin is significantly richer than me. And most people would probably agree with that. It's impossible to find out how much Putin earns because he is in charge of the Russian government, and so he can just hide everything. And it's all shell companies and obscure people who own millions of dollars for no particular reason, or hundreds of millions of dollars for no apparent reason as to how they got wealthy. And it's actually all just Putin's wealth squirreled away in different places. So now we go and look at the Russian fossil fuel export revenue. I just look at that. So that's the 1 billion a day and going down to $500 million a day. Then a fragment of that is going to be going straight into Putin's pockets. So that's why he cares about it. And it was obvious that he was an oligarch. Obviously he cared about it. But I think what was surprising was quite how much and how important this is for him for the Ukraine war. Nothing else. No military setbacks have encouraged him to even think about a peace deal. And then you think about, well, what about the origins of the war? So I don't think Putin went into the war to try and earn money from fighting. I don't think that's really what happened. But let's go back and find this. So the economy. I think I've got to go up to find it. Yeah, here we are. It's about the Russian. So when Putin started the war in Ukraine, his aim, he had just taken over Crimea. And Crimea is on the Black Sea coast, and that's in 2014. And he was very popular in Russia when he took over Crimea. It's got lots of very fabulous oceanfront property, and it's well known for its beaches. It was a holiday resort for Russians. So basically, in 2014, he took over holiday resorts in Crimea. So he took over a very luxurious part of Crimea, of Ukraine, when he took over Crimea. It was also the place where for the Black Sea Fleet headquarters. So then, having done that, and it was a very popular thing that he did, and it was almost no resistance. And then, after he'd taken over Crimea, then he sees Ukraine just agreed to that arrangement that Russia now is in control of Crimea. They didn't really contest it because it just happened so quickly and suddenly a bit. There were some some contests. Yeah, I'm not very good in history, but the that is they didn't have a military fight back at Putin when he took over Crimea. It was very easy for Putin. And then, based on that, then Putin then took over, take over the eastern parts of Donbass. And Crimea, according to Zelensky, helped him to do that. And then that then is what led to endless kind of fighting between the two, and then eventually settled with the Minsk agreements, and then but still shelling going on, and it wasn't completely settled. And then that is when Putin decided that he was going to take the whole of Ukraine, and he expected to take all of Ukraine in 2 weeks. So it's the same thing. He wanted to own Ukraine essentially. So it's more kleptomania really, and he expected this to happen very, very quickly. He expected to own, not kleptomania, kleptocracy, sorry, wrong word. So he wanted to take over all of Ukraine, and he expected to do that in 2 weeks. And then when that didn't, he had no plan B, but he expected it to be very easy, just as easy as Crimea. So he didn't go into this war starting a big war, but once he was stuck in the middle of it, then he lost the Battle of Kiev, and then he could perhaps have ended the war at that point and withdrawn back to the area of Donbass, but then he decided to keep fighting. So I think it was a decision point there. And then after that, the war has actually benefited the Russian economy. So this is something where people would be, I don't know anyone that I mention this to. It's just extremely rare for only people who are not following this in a very close way to actually know that the Russian economy is actually booming. So what happened? How could that be? Well, the reason is that Russia is a huge country. It spans many different time zones. It's got many different populations. Oh dear, that's the thing that tells me the time. Sorry, switch that off. It spans many different time zones, and many different ethnicities. Like, for instance, there's the Chinese-speaking and writing people near China, and then there are others who are Mongolian who speak many different languages, but not actually in Mongolia, which is separate from Russia. And then there's lots of different ethnicities, and then there's the ones in there's the areas that are kind of Muslim in kind of northeast of Turkey, roughly that part of Russia. There's also quite a bit over in there to the east of that. Again, I'm not very. I have to look everything up to get this accurate, but just to give you a picture of the idea that it's a vast country. It's got lots of mineral wealth. It's got lots of fossil fuel wealth. It's got agriculture. It's got spans numerous time zones, and it goes to the Arctic all the way to the semi-tropical regions, and so it can sustain an economy itself, just the different countries trading with, different districts trading with each other. And then the military, fighting this war has turned out to be a big boost for the Russian economy, because the wages, for instance, of a soldier, then they'll earn in a month what they would normally earn in a year. So a lot of the regions of the kind of rural areas of Russia, it's a big boost to their economy, this war with Ukraine. And then there's, and it's, the reason is, if it was an economy like Europe, it wouldn't be much of a boost. But the reason is because the Russian economy is incredibly weak. It's like the economy of India or parts of Russia, of Africa, or parts of India. And when Ukrainians took over Sudzha, then they were astonished to find that they didn't have any running water there, because Ukraine is a normal European country. It's not the most wealthy, but they can afford to have running water in all the houses and to have indoor toilets and things. Well, in Sudzha, they had dirt toilets in their gardens, and they didn't have running water in their houses. They had to go and collect water from taps, it was just very, very basic. And you may know that in the early times in the war, the Russians were famous for stealing washing machines from the Ukrainians, from occupied Ukraine, and they'd take them away on attacks. They'd go fighting, they'd capture a new village, they'd remove all the washing machines and drive away with them. Because for them those were fabulous wealths, because they just didn't have washing machines. So that's the situation that this war has, and then paying for the fuel, paying for the missiles, the bits of equipment that the soldiers need. All this is hugely stimulating the Russian economy, and it's raising the standards of living of the people in weaker parts of Russia, and so it's very popular with the Russian people, and it's not doing any harm to the oligarchs. They're actually finding they're boosted by it. So that is why the war isn't hurting the oligarchs so far. But now that as Trump he's shown that he has the ability to stop their revenue from oil, which is what goes straight to the government and the oligarchs, and he's done that just with India just starting, and before the tariffs even go into place, the Russian oil has revenue stopped. They can see it's going to stop flowing from India. And what's going to happen when Trump does the same with China and with Brazil, which are their other main export revenue? And so that is why Putin he really does want a ceasefire. Not because he's at peace, but because that is how he's going to be able to get money flowing again. So that seems to be what's going on here. And so so that is why that's Putin's motive. So now Trump's motive, Trump has the amount of money that he can earn, he's earning some money from the war too, because the Europeans and Ukrainians are buying weapons from the United States now. But the amount he's earning is just peanuts compared to the US economy, and compared to the deficit, his budget deficit, which is absolutely huge. Whereas Russia doesn't have a deficit, it's got a surplus. So Trump, he's not in this for the money. And so he could just walk away and say, well, look, this isn't working. But the reason he doesn't want to do that, because he's in it for his Nobel Prize. So, Nobel Peace Prize. Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize much more easily than Trump. Now, it is something that would be done. The Nobel Peace Prize Committee will give the Peace Prize to politicians that stop wars. So, if Trump manages to, that show significant political developments in the direction of peace, if he manages to stop the Ukraine war, and it's very clear that he was the one who did it, then he would have a pretty good chance of getting the Nobel Peace Prize. So that's a very strong motivation for Trump. He cares about things like that. So Putin is in it for the money, Trump is in it for the Peace Prize. And with those very strong motivations on both sides, then there's a significant possibility that they do actually achieve a ceasefire. So that's why I see this being very promising. But I'm not definite, and that'll be in my next video, is just to explain that please don't expect this this is definitely going to happen or anything like that. And that's where I went wrong with my previous blog post. I did say that this looks very positive, looks very optimistic. I didn't explain very clearly that it is very common for ceasefires to falter and for peace agreements to falter, and it can take many tries before they actually succeed. So I'll talk about that in my next short video. So check in the video description to go to this article. So it's not the best organized article at present. I may have to make it into a new article altogether or something. But if you check in the video description, then I'll talk about all this in the video description in the article. So you can click through it, look at the sections that I looked at, and then get some idea from that. And any questions, do say, of course. And just a shout out for our Doomsday Debunked group on Facebook, but you'll find out about that if you go to the end of of the blog posts. If you can help with things like this, it's a great help.